There it is, live on YouTube.
All right, I did something right for a change. Oh yeah, now it's telling me it's setting up my meeting on YouTube. There we go. Done. You're live. Wonderful.
I remember corporate world when you would have, the overhead projectors and presentations, and the projectors always, whoever came in to hook up their laptop to give the presentation, the projector would never cooperate. So you were 15, 20 minutes into the meeting, just trying to
Yeah,
get the projector to project what was on the
yeah.
laptop.
Well, and the Camera Club has done everything at Santa Rita Springs for probably 15 years now in all of our meetings and classes. And the biggest holdup to what the club can offer is always getting instructors who are willing to share the information. Either people don't feel comfortable doing it, they've not been quote unquote an instructor for a class. Um, sometimes sometimes they just don't like standing in front of a group. It's things they've never done before. So we started this Zoom stuff. Now you can do the class from the comfort of your own home,
Yeah,
or as some people do it out of their closet.
yeah.
It's just wherever it's convenient. And at first I thought, well, we're not going to get a lot of people who will do that and learn how to use Zoom. Well, surprise. It's easier for me to recruit somebody to teach it on Zoom than it is in person.
Yeah.
I mean, people are surprisingly willing. We've started a new one, which I'm going to invite everybody to. Um, Thursday afternoons at 1 o'clock. It's called Hit Me With Your Best Shot. It's a digital photography SIG. Right now, I think it just started last Thursday, kind of a trial balloon, and 15 or so people signed up for it. I think there were 10 in attendance. And what you do is you have a picture or two ready to share um, with members of the special interest group. The sharing part, the first time you do it, is a little nerve wracking, but it's not too bad. Down on the bottom of the Zoom screen, there's a thing called Share Screen in Green, and you can click that on, it'll share your desktop. So we have the people put the picture they want to share on their desktop. I actually managed to open mine up. I screw up more than anybody does. And then I do, I really, I forget to put it on the desktop, then I have to dig for it. But long story short, it worked. They were able to share some pictures and make some really positive comments on each other's pictures,
Well,
which is really, really helpful. I like mine, but a lot of other people don't. So I just smile. Yeah, no, I'm kidding. But it's fun. It definitely is a place to sharpen some of your photographic skills. And I've contacted a couple other camera clubs, one in the Midwest, to see if maybe on special occasions they wouldn't join the SIG. So we would have some people from outside of the camera club across the country who were going to share some commentary and stuff, and that should be really interesting. So we're working on that. That's a new SIG. We have somebody who's going to take care of it for us, and we'll see what happens. The multimedia SIG sounds scary, but they meet on Monday mornings at 10 o'clock. And it is really, really fun. Most of the people that are on there share, or some of the people in the SIG share, I want to say short multimedia presentations. They try and keep them just a few minutes long. And then they explain how they made them. And so you can go there and watch. You don't actually have to do anything. You can just sit there and watch and see how these people did it. And then you pick up some keys to future learning. Um, Somebody says, well, I used such and such. I used iMovie, like, pull an Apple product as an example. They say, well, I used iMovie. And that's how I made this. Well, now in the back of somebody's mind who has a Mac, maybe I ought to learn how to use iMovie. Somebody else said they use Premiere, which is an Adobe video editing and multimedia product. And they said, maybe I want to learn how to use that. And those are all things we can have classes on in the future and all kinds of neat stuff. What I don't want anybody who came into this new to the camera club or to the process is just to give up and not do anything. Say, okay, I took a class, I got my camera, it's over there collecting dust. Oh, that takes all the fun out of it. Go out and do something with it. Take some pictures,
Yeah.
put them together, show them to other people. My God, the ego trip of showing your pictures and having people say, wow, those are really good. First couple times I did it, I had to scratch my ear out here somewhere, because my head swelled up. And it is, and it encourages you then to go back and do some more. Because without that feedback, the hobby sort of dies, or it definitely doesn't grow. Are you going to become, adept at everything? No. Most of the people in the camera club pick a niche, something they're interested in, they work with that. I'm amazed. We offered a bird photography class with Mike McMinn, and we did it the first time, and it was full. And so I talked Mike into offering a second one, and I believe he's had 40 or some people sign up for the second one. So, what you need to do is periodically, once a week or so, go to the club's website, go to the class calendar. I don't bother with the registrations because you have to wade through too much stuff. I go to the calendar, I look for some stuff that I like, pop it up, but if it's something really interesting, register for it. You can't go around. We're not charging you any money. It's free. If you don't show up, they don't penalize you. You don't have to go ask for a refund. And if you do, there's usually some good information in there. Not everything is saved onto YouTube that we do. There are some of the SIGs do not go on simply because pretty soon we'd have so much stuff on YouTube, they'd throw us out. There is a limit. I don't know what Phil's going to manage that, but there is a limit. So we have some restrictions. Now, I laugh. I think mine got thrown off for copyright violations, but that's another story. It really did. I had to pull it out of Showtime because YouTube wouldn't take it. I just stole a little bit of footage from a TV show. They were not happy about it. I don't understand it. But what I sent out this morning, if you haven't gotten the email, and I'm just going to reshare it with you, is you can fill out a evaluation form. And when you fill out the evaluation form, we will email you a certificate of participation in this class. Oh, that is so nice. You'll get this. You have to print it up yourself, but you're going to get an attached PDF with your name on it and all the fancy stuff. And I'm so proud of it because I figured out how to do that without any intervention on my part. When you fill out that form, it automatically designs a certificate with your name on it, puts it all together, and emails it out to you. And I don't have to do anything. I think it's an amazing process.
Yeah, that's sweet.
Yeah, it's done through Google, and they do a really nice job with that. And secondly, there's a place on there. I'm trying to get the people who were in this big winter class to do some kind of a project. That's been my big kick all year. And I don't know if you guys saw, I was the speaker series a while back on doing a project.
Yep.
And we had that lady, Stacy Pearsall, who did the Veterans Project. And I was so impressed with her. I got her name through the Veterans Administration. I have a nephew who is assistant director of the Veterans Administration in Washington. And he said, look at this woman's video because she does what we wish more people would do. So I looked at the video and I was terribly impressed. I shared that with everybody. And we shared some Australian photographer who just loves projects, but I'm encouraging everybody to do some kind of project, even, if the project is just hooking a series of still pictures together. Those are called slideshows or gallery presentations. And then there's so many opportunities to show it off. You can show it off in multimedia. Showtime is my favorite. We had, I'd have to look again, we had 200 people sign in on YouTube and through the website for the last Showtime. I mean, it's amazing the number of people. When we did it in person, we did the last one at Desert Hills. We had about 60 people show up in person. We do it online, and we're getting close to 100 every time.
Yeah.
The speaker series presentation, the same way. The one with the photographer from the nature photographer, Dano.
Dano, yeah.
Wow. I think that's got 300 views on YouTube. Another 60 or 70 people went through the website the day of it live. That's amazing. We never had an activity at the club ever that had 350 people attend. We didn't have room for that. So it's kind of, interesting. But long story short, submit something. Think about a project. If you don't want to do anything serious, then there's a second link on that letter I sent out to everybody today. You can open that link up and submit one photo. If you submit your best one for one of the Showtimes next year, because he's not doing them again till the fall, for the next Showtime, I'll have a presentation in it with pictures from all the people who were in the big winter class. So you get to get a sample in. We'll put the music in, we'll put all the fancy crap in with it and make it look really good. I'll con somebody into doing it, probably Linda will do it for me, and we'll have a really nice presentation. If anybody was with us last year, we found the pigs. We went down to Tubac, and Tubac had some pigs, artsy fartsy pigs all over Tubac.
Yeah.
And they were auctioning them off for a fundraiser. So the people and some people in the club, we went down and took pictures of the pigs. And some way or another, the pigs got lost. I couldn't find the pictures anywhere. And I thought somebody had them. We were bantering back and forth, and nobody seemed to know what happened to the pigs. And then one day I got this little note. They were on the club's Google site. I said, how did they? Nobody knows how they got there, but we found the pigs. So I now have a copy of the pigs, and we're good to go. But I will do that with the other ones. If you submit some pictures, anybody that has the urge, pick out your best picture and go to that link, and there's a place where you stick your name in, and it'll actually upload your picture and take it, and we'll have a list. Make sure you put your name in there, because I got to somehow or other associate everybody's name with their picture. Other than that, you've survived. That's all I can say. A lot of our instructors are thrilled with this Zoom stuff, and I'm gonna have a hard time making some of them quit, even when we can go back face to face. Linda Gregory does Thursday mornings. If you've never attended, stop by on a couple Thursdays and just sit in. She uses Photoshop elements, and she will take one of the participants' pictures and then she shows you what she can do with that picture in Photoshop elements. And most of the time, the stuff is stunning, just to say the least. Somebody said, how do you learn how to use programs like Elements? Well, seriously, my suggestion is I just go there and sit in on her class, and I don't say a thing. I just watch. And after 2 or 3 sessions, I'm not uncomfortable with that program. I don't use it. There are probably a dozen photo editors that are available to use. And, that's something we have to talk about, classes for the future. But Linda says she doesn't know if she wants to go back and do it in the classroom. She likes it online. So we're going to see what happens. Yeah, you're smiling. I like it better that way, too. I can wear my pajamas,
Sure. Well, it cuts down on all the other stuff you have to do, like getting ready, brushing your teeth, shaving, all that happy stuff, taking a shower, driving to the location,
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, Photoshop.
Because traffic is so bad here in Green Valley. It's just horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure. I don't know. I have a grandson who stopped by and he says, "Does anybody live here? I didn't see cars when I came in." I said, "Yeah, they do." Uh, I'm gonna, since we've dumped everything out on you, and I think you're it. Yeah. Um, I'm gonna just say, you got any comments? Anything you want to say? Anything you want to ask me? It's not too often that the educational chair for the camera club gets pinned down, so you can ask me anything you want. If you got any comments, let me know.
Well, I'd just like to thank you for the entire series, Gene, and everybody that made it possible. Um, it's been a really good series, and
Yeah,
I've picked up some good information from it.
good. I think it'll get better. This was our first try, and a lot of the instructors were, I don't know what the word is, a little apprehensive about using Zoom and weren't terribly comfortable with it, but they've adapted. They're doing much better.
Yeah.
I've enjoyed it too. I've been doing this class for 4 or 5 years, and I always learn something, and I like the variety this year.
Yeah, so
I
this is my
laugh.
first year. Yeah.
You see me smiling. I always tell all the people at the beginning, my God, we must have failed. How many people in here have taken this class more than twice? And everybody says, "Oh, me, I did." I'm thinking, but it's been a little bit different each year. I mean, some of the things we repeat, but it's been a little bit different. And if I find some new stuff, I'll send it out. We've changed dramatically. I'll explain it to you. Originally, this was a camera class. It was a big 10-week camera class. Then digital photography and phones entered the picture big time, and it became a photography class. We still do a little bit of basic how a camera works at the beginning, just so that participants have a bit of an understanding when something goes wrong. But we don't get into the kind of detail that we did in the past, because so many people are shooting on phones and point and shoot cameras, and so the class has changed. It's now a photography class with an emphasis on composition and editing and storytelling and multimedia. And the whole complexion of it has changed. But I think that's just a sign of the times. How many have you guys done video on a phone yet? Wow, is the only thing I can say. My phone does video better than my Canon DSLR. That's a God's truth. My Android phone does such a good job on video. I tend to shoot almost all of what I do now on a phone.
Yeah.
Um,
I've
just
seen the handheld rigs that you can buy that your phone mounts in the middle. You hold the two handles out here. It's got
yeah.
attachments for your LumaCubes and for an auxiliary mic to go on top. So you're picking up everything you need. So
One over there in the cupboard. I'm not that I
Yeah.
buy a lot of gadgets or anything, but I have one over in the cupboard,
yeah,
and your phone sits right in the middle of it. It's stable. It'll mount on a tripod. You can carry it. And
Yeah.
my wife just bought me a new toy. It hasn't come yet, but it should arrive shortly. It's a gyroscopically controlled photo for a camera. So you start it up, your camera's mounted inside of it, and no matter where I move, this thing stays perfectly
yeah,
aligned.
yep.
I can be doing this, but the
Yeah.
picture is just straight shot. So we'll see how that works. But and I hadn't done a lot of video. I did years ago, but recently I've done some more. It's because it's fun. Oh goodness! Now I bored you all to death for this morning.
No, not at all.
No, this is fun. Anybody else got anything you want? Hey, feel free to contact me. My email is all over the club website, and if you've got a class you'd like me to see if I can find an instructor for, I've found the greatest repository of knowledge in the world. It's called YouTube. I kiddingly went to my doctor and I said to her, she had made some diagnosis. I had a medicine that was having side effects. And I said, how do you figure that all out? Just so I went to YouTube last night. You find everything there.
Ah, damn YouTube. Yeah.
Yeah, but the problem is finding it. Where is it at? And
Yeah.
I had said to somebody I wanted. We were just now talking about phones, and I get all kinds of requests. We have a lady, Grace Pitzer, who does an iPhone photography session for us periodically. She's really good at it. Her and I, this time for the Big 10 week class, decided to do a kind of dual thing where one of us did the Android and one of us did iPhone. I had a lot of requests for an Android class. So I went on YouTube. Good God, they were terrible. I mean, there were people who had English as a second language, so they were difficult to understand. That's politically correct. I want you to know. Yeah, and I had people that just had no pedagogical or teaching skills. The flow of their lesson just gave you a headache. So we're working on one. We want to see if we can make the club make their own video on using an Android phone as a camera because it's gotten so popular. We have about 40% of the people who signed up for this class said they were using their phone as their camera.
Yeah.
So it's kind of interesting. Yeah, wow, that's what I said too. I said, really? But see, it's always with you. I remember when I paid an arm and a leg to get a 12 megapixel camera. Wow, my God,
Yeah.
I got a. So then
Yeah.
we were all into that. Now I pick up my Android phone and it's 14 megapixels.
Yeah.
My God, it's in my pocket. What doesn't it have? Well, it doesn't have a big, it doesn't have a big sensor. So it's a little limited on data. Well, now the new digital photo editing programs will allow you to adjust that and they'll allow you to add data in.
Yeah. That's like the first 386 computer I bought.
Yeah.
Cost me as much as a car, I think, earlier in my history, but and it was 10 megabytes as far as memory was concerned.
Yep.
And
I had
now you have these things.
and it's got gigahooters on there. I can't even figure out how much is on my phone.
Yeah.
It said you can add this little card, so I added the card and said, "Whoa,
Well,
look at this!"
yeah.
Yes, I remember my son and I bought our first computer. I think he was in middle school. I can't remember, but it was a Timex Sinclair, and it had a whole mega memory. One, and it cost about $350.
Yeah.
Oh, and the memory expansion was about the size of a dinner plate.
Yeah. Well, I remember some of the really old Unix machines where the memory banks were made up of platters and like giant 78. I'm thinking they were bigger than that, and they all had to be kept in temperature controlled rooms, and you couldn't go in there, when smoking was allowed in businesses. No smoking inside the computer rooms because the filtration was so heavy duty in there just to keep particulate matter off the disks, because anything like as small as like maybe 10 microns would screw up the disk recording system. So,
Well, cameras are evolving too, and you're going to see a lot of new stuff. But the most powerful things that are coming with digital photography now are on the editing side.
yeah.
The cameras are just beautiful. They produce glorious images, but all the really artsy stuff that people are doing
Oh, yeah.
is done on the editing and it's affectionately called post-production.
Sure.
So, that's where the big stuff is done. Multimedia, I think it was the multimedia SIG. I tried to start it back up this summer and we got it going. I decided to, see if I get a couple guest speakers with this Zoom. So I got a young lady that's acquainted with one of my grandsons out of New York, and she was our guest speaker. And she's an ESPN editor.
Wow.
That's what she does. She edits all the commercials and all the film clips and all the cool stuff for Disney and ABC. And they were terribly impressed. when she said all the stuff that they do on the post production and what the difference it is between what they shot and what you see on television. It's stunning. The same way it's true with digital photography.
Gene, I'd like to say a few words about the class.
Sure.
So I've had a pretty nice DLSR for several years, but what I found was that I was basically only using a small component of its capabilities because I was mainly focused on birds. And so I had basically scooted the ISO, to one end and, did a number of things that made bird photography easy, but had sort of forgotten about a lot of other things that I like to do with that camera. So one thing that I've been reflecting on is that that I would like to be able to use that camera more for astrophotography. And it turns out it's pretty easy to do, but I'm not really very confident about how I get a good exposure on that when I would use it for astrophotography. So I don't think that's a big topic, but it might be something that could be added somewhere so that you could
Good idea.
if you have I have a 300 millimeter lens. It's got a big aperture and it makes a nice telescope, but I don't seem to be able to, in the time that I usually have to take the picture, get the exposure right. So that's just one comment. I really appreciate the focus on, or I should say the emphasis on the iPhone, because I'm finding more and more the iPhone is my default camera, even though I really love my DLSR. The DLSR is too much for me to carry when I'm hiking. So I basically relied on the iPhone to take close-ups of stuff in the desert, landscape photography, even trying to capture things like jackrabbits. The iPhone works pretty well. So knowing how to get more out of the iPhone has been helpful, and I really appreciate that emphasis in this class. As far as post-production is concerned, there's a lot more I'd love to learn, but I have a bit of a purist's, a streak in me that basically says what I'm really trying to do here is reproduce true colors and capture nature as it is. And I know that's all, laughable in some way, but still that's a tendency that I have. And what can I do? I think I mainly have relied on photography as a way of extending my ability to identify birds. So.
Have you been in Mike's class?
I haven't, but I did go on one field trip with him.
Okay. He's going to do a SIG, or he is doing a special interest group on bird photography, and check online and look and see. I made myself a nice little note about the astrophotography. We'll start looking for somebody who is adept at it that can maybe share with members. When somebody mentions something like you just did with astrophotography, my function is to then go on a hunt to see if I can find somebody who has a skill set with that, Yeah. And with 800 members, oftentimes I can stumble on it. It just takes a little time. And then finally somebody ponies up and admits that that they do it,
Well, I was trying to photograph this convergence of Saturn and Jupiter that took place a month or so ago. And what I found was that the stability of the camera was the biggest problem. And so I was busy trying various different tripod options until I found something that was pretty close. But then I also needed to figure out how to get the camera to take a picture without me touching it, which of course is a timed shot, right? Well, I couldn't sort that out in the time that I had during the very short window between when the sun went down and when the convergence set. So
I have a Canon DSLR, and I bought, I think it was $29 on Amazon. I bought a remote for it, and then I can like sit and tap this remote and it'll take a picture.
Oh,
Um,
it's a
Made a
very good
huge
option.
difference.
Yeah.
I have utmost respect for bird photographers, people who can take pictures of birds. Last summer, I decided I was sitting on the beach with my grandkids, and I said, "There's seagulls all over, and they're in front of this big black rock. We live right on Lake Huron. Waves in the background. That would make a great picture." So I got the DSLR tripod, sat down, and then I went and chummed the seagulls with Cheez-Its because they're just like rats with feathers. You know, they come
Yeah.
as soon as you rustle food. So here they come, and I throw them down. I bet I was 200 pictures later before I got the picture I wanted of a seagull in front of the rock. I got seagull armpits, I got seagull butts, I got everything but a seagull standing in front of that rock. Finally, I got one. You know, now these other people, I feel almost negligent. They're running out with the camera and they're shooting these beautiful bird pictures. And I realize how much work it is to get the one good shot
Yeah.
that they're showing you, you know, compared to that. I
Yeah,
cheated up at that
it's
Raptor
ridiculous.
flyby, you know. I cheated. I went up there and I said to one of the handlers, I said, God, I said, I belong to the Green Valley Camera Club. And I said, I got to get a really good bird picture. And I said, where should I stand? And she said, I'll tell you what. There's going to be an owl coming over. And she said, I raised him from a chick. She said, his mother was killed out here on the road. And she said, we picked a little baby up. And she said, I raised him. When he flies out, he's going to look for me. Stand over here. So I stand there, and that bird came right over in front of me, and it looked so good. And I said, maybe some of these bird photographers cheat a little bit.
Absolutely.
You can count on it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Who are them birds over?
Yeah.
But
So,
yeah, bird
Gene,
photography is a big deal. It really is a big deal in the club.
your email requested a photo from us.
Yep.
And when I went to the site to submit a photo,
It wouldn't take
it
it.
asked for a hog photo.
Oh, don't worry. Just send it anyway.
Well, you got my best hog photo, but it's not my best photo.
Send your best for forget it.
Okay.
I'll go back and check that.
Now
I
I
don't
have to
know
go
why
look for
it's
hogs. Yeah.
Yeah, I was that's where the missing hogs
pair of
are.
newborn javelinas. It's a
Yeah.
pair of newborn javelinas. It's very nice, but it's
I'll go back and look at that when we get done here. Maybe that's how the hogs got somewhere where we didn't plan on it.
Oh, Mike, I just sent a link. Talk about small cameras. This is like Canon's, I think, latest edition, which is a little handheld 1 to 300 millimeter zoom that I guess they have on sale now. I just it looks like an interesting addition to somebody's camera bag maybe. But
There are probably half dozen or more people in the club who own a Lumix, and that's Panasonic's digital camera brand. And the Lumix, at first, first time I saw one, I thought it was a mirrorless, like a DSL mirrorless. It's not really. It's a top end point and shoot, but the lens and the quality of that camera are just stunning. They're small, they're lightweight, the zoom is incredible, and that's kind of a trend in cameras now, where they're kind of, I want to call them the Swiss Army knife cameras. You know, they do a lot of different things, but they're lightweight and they're convenient. Were any of you guys around for a few years ago when we did a guest presentation with David Hume Kinnerly? No, I see y'all going now. David Hume Kinnerly is an old presidential photographer. He was Gerald Ford's presidential photographer. He was Jimmy Carter's, I think, 3 presidents. He was the official White House photographer. So he has these incredible pictures. I mean, he's got pictures of one of the first ladies dancing with a drink on her hand on the desk in the presidential office, all kinds of cool things. He got all done. He showed us these pictures, and then people asked him, well, what kind of camera are you using now? And he held up his iPhone. He said, this is all I'm using.
Oh, I was mistaken. That little camera is a 100 to 400 millimeter optical zoom.
Wow.
And you could put it in your hand to operate it. So you'd be holding it up. It doesn't look like a camera at all. So,
Mhm. The world is changing.
and it's 12 megapixels.
You know, and
So at the other extreme here,
look at this lens.
this is an old lens that I bought from a friend of mine who has a online lens business, sells used Nikon lenses and setups. This is it's essentially a portrait lens, and it is an 85 millimeter f2 lens that is perfect for photographing a face. And blurs the background artistically, and it's just fantastic. But it's 20 years old, 30 years old, something like that. My friend in Phoenix makes his living buying and selling used lenses and used cameras. And so I have a number of these old lenses that are very specialized in some cases, but really make very cool photos.
So if anybody's looking for a specialized lens, see Mike.
Yeah, I can steer you towards my friend.
God, I'm thinking about what I gave away. I'm gonna cry. No, I had no idea that had a Nikon I think F6 film camera, and I was out at an open house at Davis Mountain, taking some pictures of planes. Some guy came up to me, and he said, "Lieutenant so and so said he'd like to talk to you for a second." And I looked over, and it was one of the pilots. And so I walked over, and he said, I collect antique cameras. And he's pointing to my Nikon. I said, antique? You got to be. Yeah, that's an antique camera. I ended up giving it away to a college student who was working in photography, and they were developing black and white film. And she had this Canon that was falling apart. And so I just gave her the whole box, What are you going to do with them? I gave 2 or 3 of them away like that. Now, what are they? Today, they're antique cameras. I don't even want to think about what those 2 Hasselblads that I sold for $50 are worth today. All right. If you guys are all set, I'm going to let you go and say thank you for being in the class. And
Thank
I'll
you,
go
Gene.
hog
Thank you,
photo
Gene.
link.